Hi, my name is Mark Hundley, and this is Live at 5 for a Thursday. We have a Friday coming up. I hope you've had a good week. I have a weekend coming up tomorrow. It's a 3-day weekend, by the way. It's Memorial Day weekend. I'm not sure anymore if I know the difference between a weekend and a weekday, but I know we have a 3-day weekend coming up. And for the most part, I think most of us don't have to work on Mondays. So I hope you'll get ready for a good weekend. I hope you have something fun planned. Um, we're in the beginning, the second session or second video of a new series. I've told you I'm kind of going to start doing series along these lines. This series focuses on wisdom, Native American wisdom from Native American proverbs, and I hope that you'll enjoy this. I've enjoyed putting it together and doing some research and going back and finding some of my favorites. Today's is entitled "The Good Chief." The Good Chief. I've already told you that I'm kind of a sucker for Native American wisdom. Through the years, I have discovered so many powerful insights and perspectives about leadership, relationships, values, um, and it's really interesting to see the kind of information that's available through the collective proverbs. One proverb in particular that resonates with me deeply is from the Mohawk people. Now, you may not know much about the Mohawk, but they're a tribe that was a member of a larger group called the Iroquois Confederacy, and it was made up of 6 independent tribes. They originated in what is now the state of New York, and they were known, the Mohawk were known as keepers of the eastern door, so their job was to protect from invasions and attacks from the east. But let's get back to the proverb. The proverb says, "A good chief gives, he does not take." To me, this phrase parallels in many respects the modern concept of servant leadership. The servant leadership phrase with which we are most familiar was coined by a guy by the name of Robert Greenleaf in an essay that was published back in 1970 entitled "The Servant as Leader." As much as we talk about servant leadership in educational circles, religious institutions, business organizations, and politics, operating from the traditional default leadership model actually occurs more often than we care to admit, I think. Talking the talk of servant leadership has kind of a hip ring to it. Talking the talk of servant leadership sounds good to the ear and engenders a certain automatic following from people who desire to be led by and associated with one who understands the power of this concept. And yet, when professed servant leaders only talk the talk, the people who would benefit the most from such leadership, if demonstrated consistently, find themselves under the tyranny of what I call the default model. The default model depends on top-down hierarchical structure and pressure. It often demands lockstep obedience. It is routinely characterized by mindless acquiescence. The default model takes. Yet, to be fair, the default model has some appeal. It does create order and predictability. Let's face it, in a complicated world where choice can sometimes become a stifling burden, many prefer to be told what to think, what to feel, what to believe, and what to do, how to act. It actually can simplify life to a degree. That is, until people living and working under this model realize that they have little, if any, voice, and therefore are rarely heard. On the other hand, a good chief gives. He does not take. The Mohawk understood the power of servant leadership long before anybody coined that phrase. The Mohawk understood the detrimental effects of oppressive leadership. They understood the destructiveness of taking. The good chief gives. The good chief is a servant leader. The good chief grows people, develops thinkers, encourages problem solvers, and builds other servant leaders. What are some of the differences, you ask, between the default model and what I call the good chief model? Let me share a few. The default model often takes. It takes personal initiative, individuality. It often takes the right to think and to speak. It takes the freedom to ask questions. It takes the validation of personal worth, and it takes credit when it's undeserved. The good chief model, on the other hand, gives. It gives direction and hope, encouragement and purpose. It gives opportunity and freedom, and it gives credit where credit is due. My challenge today, and you know I always have a challenge, my challenge today is that we demand that those who lead and preach and educate and govern do so from the good chief model. Demand that they walk the walk of the servant leader. Further, as often as possible, and in every situation you find yourself, you and I work to be the good chief. I know we can, I know we will, and I know the benefits when it happens. I hope you have a great evening. Enjoy dinner. Get some rest tonight. Get ready for the final day of work tomorrow. Enjoy yourself. Thanks for dropping by. It's always good to see you. Peace.